So I'm back and this video is long overdue. This actually should have been my second video, but here we are. My very first video, if you're new to my channel, I did a review of the ELVIE Pump. The ELVIE Pump came out in February of this year, and I gave birth, or not even this year, 2019, wow. It came out in February 2019, and then I gave birth to my youngest baby in April of 2019. So I started using the pump the night before I gave birth. I had a scheduled C-section. And so this video is more so geared towards how I was able to stop pumping altogether at 7.5 months. And I have enough milk to take him through his first year of life. I might have a little more than that, we'll see. But I filled 2 deep freezers to capacity, and then our regular freezer, I filled that as well with milk. And then I kind of ran out of storage space. So I started weaning myself off, and then I think by the time he turned 7 months, I was only producing enough to feed him for that day, and that was by choice. So by the time he hit maybe like 7 months and a week, I was done pumping. And so we're still working off of the first deep freezer right now. I think I have a few weeks left in that one, maybe a month, and then we'll start with the second deep freezer. And I'll post a picture of what both those deep freezers look like. I mean, I literally could not close them. They were packed to capacity. And my husband was like, I am not buying a third deep freezer. So yeah, so this video was just geared towards what I did to achieve that goal. I really wanted to have my baby on breast milk for his first year of life. If you're new to my channel and you didn't watch my first video, I'll just give you a short backstory. Those who have watched it, sorry, you're gonna hear it again. But so basically my oldest, I think we made it 3 months exclusively pumping. Neither one of my children latched. So I had to exclusively pump. But with my oldest, I went back to work when he was 9 weeks. And by month 3, he was able to drink exclusively breast milk. But after that, my supply, once I went back to work, it just plummeted. I mean, I don't really have many opportunities to pump during the workday. I know legally I'm supposed to, but it doesn't always work out that way. And so after 3 months, we started supplementing with formula, and then by 4 months, he was on formula completely. And yes, I am thankful I got the 3 months with him, but ultimately it was really depressing. I was crying every day, literally crying every single day, because I wanted to at least get him to 6 months. So looking back, I'm like, I don't know if that was just me being selfish, like that's my own personal goal. I mean, he could care less at this point. But nonetheless, if you're a new mom, if you're pregnant, breastfeeding is literally like the biggest emotional roller coaster you could go on. They don't tell you that when you're pregnant, but it is literally, it is draining physically, like mentally, and it just literally, it takes you on an emotional roller coaster. That's the only way I know how to describe it. So when I got pregnant with my second child, I knew what it felt like to have a low supply. I know what it feels like to cry every single day because you're not producing enough milk for your child. And so I was like, I need to figure out what I'm gonna do with this second baby. And I started looking into the wireless pumps. They didn't really exist. I mean, there were like attachments and things you could do, but you would still be required to be hooked to your pump that's plugged into the wall. And so with that, I was just like, I can't. Like, I've got to figure out something else to do because I really want to breastfeed for a year, at least 9 months. And then, yeah, we'll see how it goes. But so I scheduled my C-section for this second baby. I had a C-section for my first. I am a person that does not dilate, so I had to schedule my C-section. And so the night before, I had ordered my ELVIE maybe 2 weeks before the baby was born. So it came, I started pumping the night before, and I was getting colostrum out. And so literally, like, I hit the ground running because I knew what my mistakes were with my first baby. And so I hit the ground running. I'm like, we're gonna get this going. So I started pumping. When my baby was born, like, as soon as I could have him, I immediately had him latch. He latched for 24 hours. After that first day, I was like, my husband will tell you, I was dropping all kind of F-bombs in the hospital. Cause I'm just like, what the, like, you were doing it yesterday, like, we had it going on, like, what happened? And then, like, he was like, nah, I don't really want it, like, I'm not doing it. So I was like, okay, here we go, we're gonna be an exclusive pumper again. So, like, that day, the day that I had him, I asked for the hospital grade pump, which was the Medela Symphony. And I pumped, like, when I think once we had gotten settled in our room, he was napping and I started pumping. I was only getting out like this much milk. I mean, it wasn't a lot, but just like his older sibling, both of them had, I think it's the low glucose, if I'm not mistaken, the low glucose levels. So they needed food, like, to get their levels up, and they were getting checked every couple of hours, and they'd be like, oh mom, we need more milk. And I was like, no, we're not doing formula, I'm not doing it, I'm gonna give him this colostrum. And so, like, I was like, I gotta pump, I gotta get this milk out, I gotta get it out. So I was going back and forth between trying to get him to latch and using that pump, and so we were able to do it. So by day 2.5, it was, I don't know if it was the day I left the hospital that morning or like the night before, my actual milk started coming in. So we didn't have to do formula at all with him. Like, he was able to drink the milk and then they'd come back and check him or whatever. Fast forward, well, not really a fast forward, like a mini fast forward, because we got to the last day and I was like, okay, I'm gonna use my ELVIE. I had been using the hospital pump, and so I'm like, I'm gonna use the ELVIE. I'm gonna see what it does, because I was so nervous that the suction wouldn't be as strong. And in the hospital, they had me charting how much he was eating, and he was eating everything I pumped. So it was like a way for me to check how much I had pumped as well. So when I use my ELVIE, I don't know if I just have really sensitive nipples, maybe, I don't know, TMI, but like, it pulled out the same amount of milk that I was getting from the hospital pump. So I was like, okay, this is it. Cause I was on the fence. I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna use this as my main pump, or like maybe when I'm at work or on the road, I don't know. My first pump, side note, was the Medela Pump and Style Advanced. So I had that, and I was like, this is a good backup, whatever. When that pump was pulling, I mean, it hurt. Like, I had to literally go down to the first setting. I think there's 7 settings, if I'm not mistaken. It's been like a month and a half since I've used it. But I'm pretty sure it was the number 1 setting, and I was like, so it pulled milk, and I was just like, okay, this is it. I'm going full force with this. This is the pump. So I don't want to get off track and get into like the pros and cons of the pump, but fast forward, got home. So like, my personality, I am, which is on my New Year's resolution list, by the way, but I am a person who, like, I get going on something, I'm motivated, I'm excited, and then I kind of like die off. And so I didn't want to do that because I knew that in order to stay up with my milk production, I had to be consistent. And because my children didn't nurse directly from me, like I had to stick to a schedule in order to get him on solely breast milk. So literally every 2-3 hours max, I was pumping around the clock. So I'll give you guys my pump schedule. I would pump at 6 and then I'd pump again. He would take a really good nap from 6 until around 9. And so, and I say really good, that's the norm for most people's babies, but for my baby, that wasn't the norm. So that was a good nap for him. At 8:30 or 9, I would get up and I would pump again. I'd pump again around 11:30. I pumped again at 2, 5, 7, 9, and then like 11:45, 11:50. And then at that point, I would pump at either 1 or 2 in the morning. And then that biggest stretch was from like 2 to 6. So that was the only 4-hour stretch that I would go. But like when I woke up, I would be so full and so engorged. And I did 20-minute sessions. And mind you, I had the double pump. So I had them both going at the same time. Every 2 to 3 hours, it didn't matter how I felt. It didn't matter how well the day went. It didn't matter how tired I was. I literally, every 2 to 3 hours, I pumped. I stopped my life to make, well, it's the obvious, you don't have to stop your life, but you get what I mean. I was like, I don't care what else is going on. I have to pop these pumps in. And I was literally pumping like 80 to 90 ounces a day. That was my average. One of my friends was like, you were producing like you have twins. Like, and it's true. My baby was drinking, like when he first got home, he was drinking about 1.5 ounces to 2 ounces. And so for a good while, he was on 1.5 to 2 ounces of milk. He was also really small. Side note, my child was 5 pounds, 14 ounces when he was born. So he didn't take a lot of milk, but for like his first month and a half, he was drinking 1.5 ounces to 2 ounces. And literally I would pump like, I think at first it was like 40 to 50 ounces and then 60 ounces, and then 70 ounces. And it got up to like 80 to 90 ounces. And I was literally storing like 60 to 70 ounces per day. And at first I was like, this is not gonna be like how it is. So I didn't tell my husband like, oh, get me a deep freezer. But then he was like, babe, like I literally can't even put groceries in the freezer. And so him and my father-in-law went and got a deep freezer. And I remember like at nighttime, he was like, it's like you're running a business and you're counting your numbers at night, because at nighttime I literally had a notepad out and I was tallying up all my milk from the day and calculating, and I kept a running log of how much milk I had, and then I'd store it in the deep freezer. And a couple months later, I was like, babe, I'm still a machine and I have no more space to store the milk. So he got me another deep freezer. And then I told him when that one was kind of full, I was like, babe, this one's filling up. And he was like, I am not buying a third deep freezer. Like, we have no room for a third deep freezer. And so I was like, okay, well, I guess I'll have to start weaning. And I knew like I had enough milk, and I was just like, okay, this is it. Like, so sorry to get off track, but it was every 2 to 3 hours. Like, I can't stress that enough. Every 2 to 3 hours around the clock I did every 2 to 3 hours for the first 5 months, 5.5. at 5.5 months, I then went to 3 to 4 hour stretches. And then by month 6, I was kind of just like, whatever, I'm gonna sleep through the night. And because at 6 months, he started sleeping through the night, and I was like, screw this, I'm gonna sleep, and whatever happens, happens. So I was able to make it to 7 months producing enough milk for him. And so now, like I said, the first deep freezer, we probably have a month left in it, maybe, and then the second deep freezer, then we can get started on that. That one's packed to capacity. I think that one is at 3 months of milk. So I just want to encourage you, if you're pregnant, you know, it can be done, especially if you're an exclusive pumper. Like, I know being tied to the wall is so, it's just daunting, it's depressing, it's like, it just takes a lot out of you. And especially those who have multiple children, like, it's so hard to pull away and go sit at a pump. So I can't sing the ELVIE's praises enough. Everything has its pros and cons, but the pros highly outweigh the cons. Once you learn the pump and you learn your body and you're able to, the discipline was what I needed, and the ELVIE gave me that discipline. It allowed me to stick to a schedule without being super inconvenienced. So again, I can't sing its praises enough. And yeah, it can be done. If you have questions, or if you want me to go in detail about something else, or about something specific that I mentioned that I didn't really hit enough, please comment it in the comment box below. My Instagram is there as well. You can reach out to me via Instagram. Yeah, this multiple children life, it is really something, and I just really want to be here. I'm not a guru who has all the answers, but I literally just like to have conversations with moms just so that we can relate. So yeah, you can comment in the box below. Hopefully I'll get some sleep tonight, but if not, I'll get some sleep tonight. But until next time, see you, moms.